Hello and welcome to the Dream Team Professor podcast. My name is Scott, and in this episode, I'm going to be going through my Gameweek 3 team selection, updating you on how Gameweek 2 went for me. And then, like I said in my previous episode, I'm going to take us through the fixtures real quick now that we've got the Carabao Cup draws and some information on the Champions League draw. So we'll start off with how I got on in Gameweek 2 to start off with. So 136 points, putting me on 233 points total, 3.6k overall, and my team value is at 51.2 currently. So a pretty decent week, but the moves I made did not pay off in the slightest. So we'll start off in goal. I've got Sells from Nottingham Forest. He played the Premier League game, kept a clean sheet, but he didn't play in the Carabao Cup, which I didn't really expect considering we've been trying to decide who their keeper is for quite a while. Then I've got the disappointment of Hall from Newcastle. So he was dropped for the Premier League match and seems like he might be out of favour in that left back position. We'll have to wait and see, but he has caused me problems. He did come on in that game, and then he also did start in the Carabao Cup, but didn't do particularly well. 5 points across 2 matches isn't great. Probably does end up going down in price. So he's a problem that I have in my team currently. Vardiol, 4 points. I'm not too annoyed about this one. They did concede 1 goal, 1 shot, very Man City-like. Done well the week before. He's someone I want to keep hold of, so I'm not too bothered about it. But yeah, a little bit disappointing. I think he was 1 player performance mark off of hitting 3 bonus, so that is a positive. But he's not going anywhere, Vardiol. I quite fancy him for that fixture against West Ham at the weekend. And then I've got Robinson from Fulham, who's been really, really good for me so far this season. So got 6 points in that first match for all those tackles against Man United. And in Gameweek 2 this week, he got an assist and a bonus point, 5 tackles, hitting 9 points. So he's going to get a rise again. And another one I'm happy to keep hold of with that Ipswich fixture coming up. He didn't play at all in that Birmingham fixture, which is a shame. Probably isn't going to then play the next Carabao Cup match that they've got away at Preston. But for the price, he's doing a job, and we can worry about moving him on later. Eberechi Eze. Now, we started the week really disappointed with how his performance went against West Ham. I actually think he's been good in both games. Brentford, he looked all right, should have had a goal. Obviously, it was disallowed. And then this week, Crystal Palace versus West Ham. They lost 2-0. He got a bonus point. He had a shot on target, 2 tackles, played the full 90, hit the crossbar, was really, really close in that one. So a lot of people were sort of getting frustrated and talking about maybe taking him out. I was looking towards keeping him anyway, but I think everyone will be now after he started and got 90 minutes in the Carabao Cup, which is a big surprise considering he's someone that struggled with injuries at times. So 90 minutes in the Carabao Cup against Norwich. They didn't rotate barely at all. And he got a goal, an assist, a shot on target, and 2 big chances created. 14 points, taking him up to 19 for the game week. Really good. He's going to get a +3, I'd imagine, in price increase. So no problem keeping hold of Eze this week. Bukayo Saka, 8 points, following on from his 15 the week before. Got an assist in that game against Aston Villa, but yeah, that's decent enough from Saka. He'll be staying. Now, this is where it gets a bit annoying. So last week, I was torn between making the moves that I made here or sticking with Morgan Gibbs-White and Dwight McNeil, who disappointed in the first game week. I thought about rolling, keeping the team as it was and getting that 3rd extra transfer, which probably would have been quite handy at this point. But I went for Maddison. He looked decent for bonus and got an assist the week before. He'd done well for bonus again and got another assist. Looked really good in this game, 9 points. I was pretty happy with that. Apart from the fact that Morgan Gibbs-White scored, done well for bonus, had a really good game. I think he ended up with 12 points overall. And so Gibbs-White would have been better off keeping him. And I went for Pereira. I know a lot of people have Smith Rowe, and Smith Rowe got 10 points, scored, done really well. I liked the look of Pereira for bonus points. Was taking all the sort of set pieces, done pretty well for bonus in that first match against Man United, and I thought he looked pretty good. There's a slight chance he might have penalties as well. We're not sure. But yeah, I thought he looked really good for bonus, taking all these set pieces. Maddison and Pereira, I think, had like 20 combined corners in that first game week. So I quite liked the look of that for bonus points. And Pereira got maximum bonus in that game, but he was docked overnight. Dropped down to 11, so it dropped him down from 5 bonus down to 3 bonus, and he picked up 6 points, which for a player that's 2.5 is not a bad return at all. However, my boy Dwight McNeil got maximum bonus in that first match, and some tackles as well. He also was docked a player performance mark, so he dropped down to 3 from 5 the next morning. But then he went on to start against Doncaster in the Carabao Cup, which I thought was a possibility. That's why I put him in to start with. But he also fluked a goal. There was a shot from Tim Robingham, I think his name is, from distance, and it literally glanced McNeil. McNeil was given the goal for it. So overall, McNeil and Gibbs White came away with 27 points compared to my 15 points from Maddison and Pereira. So out of favour there, 12 points, but there you go. What can you do? Haaland, 48 points for the captaincy. Salah, 11 points up top, again doing well. And then Isak, mixed. So it was goal and assist for Salah, hat-trick for Haaland, no problems there. Isak, so he got an assist in Game Week 1, didn't he? Then he had 3 points with just a shot on target against Bournemouth, which was disappointing. But he did play the full 90 in the Carabao Cup against Forest, getting an assist, a shot on target, and a big chance created. But overall, I'd say we're disappointed with how Isak has done. I think he probably does go down in price a little bit. So it's 10 points for the week, averaged over 2, so 5 points a game. Don't think that's going to be enough. I think he will dip. So the real issues that stand out are probably Isak and Hall, but Isak for Spurs isn't the worst. It isn't the worst, but Hall, not great. So what do we do with the moves? Well, first, I'm going to quickly take you back to the fixtures. So because this is going to have a bearing on the way I'm going to make these moves. So this is the fixture ticker from ffstuff.co.uk. Deadline reminder again, 11 a.m. Don't get caught out. But we had the Carabao Cup draw since my last episode. So the Carabao Cup fixtures have been all put in to Game Week 4 on the Dream Team website and app and on here. But that isn't completely how it's going to be. So everyone there that's got their Carabao Cup fixture put in pink, if in Game Week 4, if you look at that, all of the pink fixtures there, apart from West Ham, Liverpool, will be staying there. So if you look at Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Aston Villa, and I forgot to tick them, but West Ham, those matches will all be moved to Game Week 5. And the reason being is because Liverpool and West Ham are playing each other, but Liverpool have Champions League that week, so they can't play Carabao Cup that week. The same as City, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Villa. They have Champions League the same week that they've been put in for Carabao Cup. So their Carabao Cup match will be pushed to Game Week 5. And Liverpool were the only team that drew another Premier League side in West Ham. So West Ham's match will also go into Game Week 5. All of the other Carabao Cup matches there will stay there. So that's how that will change. And I wasn't entirely sure previously whether or not we'd find out who plays who in the Champions League. We've got the Champions League draw, the new draw, taking place yesterday. Let me know what you thought of that. I wasn't really a fan, to be honest. But we found out who each team in the Champions League will be playing, but we don't know when they'll be playing those matches. We don't know the order of the matches. So We don't have that information, and it won't be given to us until Saturday. And I'm assuming it's not going to be bright and early on Saturday. So I imagine it's going to be after the deadline, which is a little bit frustrating. So yeah, game week 4, we'll have doubles for the people that got through in the Carabao Cup. We'll also have doubles for the teams that play in the Champions League. We know the Carabao Cup draws. We don't know the Champions League draws. So this is how the sort of Champions League draw came out, but we don't know when they get played. So Man City will play Inter Milan at home, PSG away, Bruges at home, Juventus away, Feyenoord at home, Sporting away, Sparta Prague at home, and Bratislava away. But that isn't the order. So we know they'll play them teams, but until Saturday, we won't know in what order they play them. Arsenal, PSG at home, Inter away, Shakhtar at home, Atalanta away, Dynamo at home, Sporting away, Monaco at home, Girona away, and then you can have a look at Liverpool. You can have a look at Villa. It's on the screen there. So we know the fixtures, but we just don't know when they're going to be getting played. So, for example, if you had your eye on Aston Villa for game week 4, lovely double game week there, you'd think, with Everton and a Champions League match. But you could get Everton and Celtic, which would look amazing. But you could also get Everton and Bayern Munich. So it's a little bit of a gamble if you are going to go for those Champions League players. But it could go either way. And I don't think there's any harm getting any of the Champions League players in, because you are going to want them eventually. But maybe when looking at defenders, it might work out a bit worse if you get a bigger team. But overall, that's who the Champions League teams will be playing. We just don't know when. Chelsea won just about against Servette yesterday. So they'll be through to the Carabao. I keep saying that, to the Europa Conference. But their Europa League conference journey does not start in the sort of groups, if you want to call them that, until game week 6. So while Champions League and Europa League teams will be playing, Chelsea won't until game week 6. It's not drawn yet either, but Manchester United will play their Europa League match in game week 5. But again, that's got to be decided still. And Tottenham will play Europa League in game week 5. So clear fixture advantage if you're sort of going for Champions League and Europa League first before going for Chelsea. Chelsea will have a Carabao Cup match if you're interested in like a Parma or a Madueke, but they've drawn Barrow. So you have to make your own mind up whether or not you think a Cole Palmer will play against Barrow in game week 4. If he does, it'll be nice. If he doesn't, you're not going to get a double until potentially game week 6. But it's kind of the case with the Champions League and Europa League teams. Will your big city players play in the Carabao Cup up against Watford, or will they rotate quite heavily? The same with Arsenal. I don't expect Arsenal to be playing a lot of their key players for Bolton in game week 5, especially off the back of that Man City match in game week 5 as well. So something to consider. But let's go back to my transfer thinking. So as many people are looking at it now, Cole Palmer, after his haul, is kind of flavour of the week. And he's a great pick. He was really, really good last season. Someone that we will definitely want in our teams. If not now, at some point in the future. He's 51% owned, so very high. Could be damaging if it does go against you if you don't go with him. But it's a hard one for me to do. So I've had a look at possibly getting Palmer in, as probably everyone has. And it would mean taking out Isak. And then I've got the problem with Lewis Hall at the back that I want to try and fix. So if I took Isak out for Palmer and then took out Hall, it would only give me 2.2 million to find a Hall defensive upgrade, which is not ideal. That's not very much to work with. I could get a £2 million player. I said a poor player because I don't think there's that many good options at sort of 2 million price point. But I could choose someone that done well last week at that price, get a price rise out of them, and fix the problem later. Someone like Williams or Milenkovic from Nottingham Forest. likely to get a rise because they did pretty well last week. But am I just kicking the can down the road? Because I probably am going to want that player out, and Europe's fast approaching. They're not going to get a double, and Nottingham Forest are not in the Carabao Cup either. So if you're looking for a cheap player, maybe you want someone that will play in the Carabao Cup, which Forest won't because they're out. So that isn't ideal, but it will get me Palmer at the expense of Isak. He won't double Palmer. Well, sorry. He might double in Game Week 4 against Barrow, potentially. There's a chance. You wouldn't have thought that he played in these conference qualifiers, but he has come on in both of them. So there is a chance. I think qualifying for conference is probably higher priority than beating Barrow, and they should be able to beat Barrow without Palmer. So if he doesn't play in that Carabao Cup match, he will just have single game weeks the whole way through up until game week 6, which, again, didn't play in Europe last season, done really, really well. So there's nothing wrong with that. Another option I've got, if I want Palmer, but don't want a shoddy option at the back, would be to do Isak to Palmer again. But then maybe look to sort of downgrade Maddison to Rodgers from Aston Villa. So I'm still not really gaining any fixtures, any European players, because I'm taking out a European player for a European player. But what it does do is it gives me Palmer, gives me Rodgers ahead of his nice fixtures. I don't like losing Maddison. I know it's a tough fixture, but I have been impressed by him so far. But it gives me 0.6 million to upgrade Hall come Game Week 4. So I could get a much better option. But it does mean I'll probably keep Hall through a price decrease and probably a did not play or a substitute appearance, which again isn't ideal. I'll be keeping someone that probably isn't going to play, probably going to get a 1-pointer or 2-pointer. But if he does play and you think that Spurs are going to score, he probably is only going to get 1 point, 2 point, 3 points. So it might not be a big issue. And it might be okay for later. But again, doesn't really move me any closer to getting extra fixtures. It just makes it a little bit easier to plan later. So I'm not entirely convinced. But if I do get FOMO with Palmer, Palmer he will get the 0.3 increase as well, which is part of the reason why I'm having FOMO, because if I don't get him in now, he sort of gets away from you, and Isak probably is going to go down in price. Just makes it harder to get him later. If you get him now, you can always sort of move off to a Foden or someone around that 6 later if you have to. But yeah, feels a bit reactionary. It doesn't feel perfect, and it is moving me away from my plan to get European players in. So what other options have I got? The one that I'm liking the most at the minute, which again, it's not perfect, and that's what I'm not liking. It's Hall that has done it. If Hall was fine and starting, I'd probably leave him there, and then I'd be moving around the midfield parts to try and get maybe a Rodgers and Palmer. But I'm looking into this. I do think that Isak does have a good fixture with Spurs at home. Newcastle, a decent team at home, much better team at home. Isak hasn't been terrible. It's 2 assists. He hasn't done what we wanted him to do, but he hasn't been awful. He has got returns. But I look at Rob T FPL's graphics. He does like a goal projections based on betting odds, who's the most likely to score. And Haaland has the highest projected goals for the week. Isak is in second for the week of all the Premier League matches with 0.62, which is so second highest for the weekend fixtures. It's not far off of Palmer. If I just get his graphic up now, Rob TFPL, do check it out. It's really good. So Isak's at 0.62, Salah's at 0.6, and Palmer's at 0.57. So not much in it, but it's close. So you could keep Isak for Spurs. It's not terrible. He's on pens. And then what could I do to help move me towards Europe and more fixtures? We've said we don't know with Villa. It could be Bayern. It could be Celtic, for example. So it could go either way. Young boys, I think, are in their group as well. So I'm looking at maybe doing this. but it will mean going against Parma for the fixture against Crystal Palace and probably the longer run. So it would be keeping Isak. It would be moving out Pereira to Rodgers, which I'm moving someone that I just bought in, which is not ideal. But I do like the fixtures for Aston Villa. The fixture run looks nice. I'd probably be getting a Watkins if he wasn't dropping in price. But Morgan Rodgers has played better minutes. He's got Leicester away this week in Gameweek 3. In Gameweek 4, he'll have a home match against Everton, and then whichever Champions League fixture gets put in. And then in Gameweek 5, it'll be another double of Wolves at home, which we've just seen Chelsea do really well against Wolves as well. We've just seen Everton be pretty poor, and we've just seen Wolves get smashed by Chelsea. So you may think that Aston Villa could do the same against Wolves. And then their Carabao Cup match against Wickham will be put into Gameweek 5 as well. It's then Ipswich after that. So that does look like a nice run. Maybe Rodgers doesn't play them all. But Pereira didn't play in the Carabao Cup, didn't even make the squad for Carabao Cup. So I do think that I will be gaining fixtures from Rodgers over Pereira for certain, and then potentially over Palmer. I know you can't compare a Palmer to Rodgers, but it will get me a European player with the potential of playing more games. So you get a good fixture swing if you get Rodgers in there, and obviously you're buying in right before the nice run of games. But then this one I'm not entirely sure on. There's been a lot of talk of our boy Ned. Nedeljkovic. He's come in and replaced Matty Cash in 2 matches because Matty Cash has picked up injuries in both. It now seems like Matty Cash is going to be out for a month with a hamstring injury. So it seems like Ned is going to be starting right back for this match against Leicester. I must say, I don't know that much about him. I don't know how well he's going to score for Dream Team points. It would really just be a punt of covering Aston Villa defence, aiming to get extra fixtures from it, and then hoping that he doesn't get displaced by Matty Cash. But Leicester away looks okay. We then have a international break after game week 3, so it would be Leicester away. That's week 1. It's an international break, which is 2 weeks long. So that's 3 weeks down. Matty Cash is due back in around a month. So there's a chance that you get game week 3 and all of game week 4 from Ned. And then Matty Cash comes back after that. Because ahead of schedule, maybe that game week 4 gets thrown into a little bit of doubt. So we think he definitely will get Leicester. Game week 4 could get thrown into doubt if Cash comes back early. But then if Cash gets Everton, maybe Ned gets Champions League, or maybe they do it the other way around. Maybe Ned gets Everton and Cash gets Champions League. And then the week after, it'll be Wolves and Wickham. So if Cash gets Wolves, maybe Ned gets Wickham. It might not be the end of the world if it does go wrong. But a best case scenario, comes in, does really well. Cash is behind schedule, and he gets even more fixtures. Konsa has played at right back, but it seems like Emery favours playing Konsa at centre half. Diego Carlos can play centre back, so Konsa could move to right back. But they were trying to offload Carlos earlier on in the transfer window, which is still open, so we have to keep an eye on that as well. But it does seem like Ned is the answer at right back. We don't know how good he will be, but it's getting in another European player with the chance of more fixtures, and it puts me in a better position going forward. It gives me 0.6 in the bank as well. And then I could use that 0.6. Say Ollie Watkins does really well against who have they got again? Leicester this week, and he's going to go up in price. Everyone's going to want Watkins. It's what's been happening this whole window. Whoever does well the last game week, everyone brings in this game week. So if Watkins does really well this week, everyone will want Watkins. I've got 0.6 in the bank. I can do Isak to Watkins probably quite easily, with Watkins going down Isak might go down, but I think it's going to be around the same price point. I'll probably get him and then take out maybe an Eze, a Robinson, someone that's not playing in Europe. I think it just puts me in a better position this way. Or if I don't want Watkins, I've got the money to try and maybe get a Foden in, who will also play Champions League in Game Week 4, we think. Probably won't play Carabao, but there's the chance to get more doubles than there would have been going for Palmer. That's what's making me lean towards doing it this way. If I do it this way, I think I risk falling behind the crowd with Palmer. But in terms of a longer term play, maybe over Game Week 3 to Game Week 6, I can get more fixtures in and maybe claw some back. Would put me on 7 European players for Game Week 3, then be able to get to 9 for Game Week 4. But 8 of those would likely be Champions League, with Maddison being the Europa League. So I think that puts me in a decent position for Europe. And then if things go drastically wrong and I'm like, I need Palmer, it would have to be a move from Salah, a downgrade from Salah, spread that money elsewhere, or Saka straight to Palmer. But I can't envision that I'm going to want Saka out. The fixtures do get harder though for Saka, and then get a bit better. I think around Game Week 6. So that is a possibility as well. It's not like I would be completely ruled out of Palmer, but it would just be a bit of a scary experience for the next couple of game weeks. So that's how I'm thinking. I haven't fully decided on it, but I'm sort of talking myself into going this route, trying to play a little bit longer, maybe ignoring the Palmer FOMO if I can, and then being set for Europe and the extra fixtures. I think this is probably the way I'm going to go, but like everyone else, I'll be thinking about that for the rest of my Friday, probably Saturday morning, and then make a decision before the deadline. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please do leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and do check out the Dream Team Tonic podcast. That's live out now on YouTube, Spotify. And if you're interested in becoming one of our Patreon members as well, we've got a great Discord community. There's a link in the description below for that. You get early access to the podcast. We do exclusive articles, and I think the Discord is my favorite part of it. I think we've got over 100 members now, chatting on a daily basis, sharing ideas, and just having good banter as well. So if you're interested in that, link in the description below, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.